I've asked for it. You've asked for it. We've begged for it. We've wanted it. We've needed it. Just so wonderful to see her again. Just
Yeah. I mean, it's been so many episodes, and it felt like just when we got to start to know her, she was gone.
yeah, and always just delivers a top-class performance. Beautiful as ever. Amazing. Just carries any scene she's in and just elevates it to a new level.
Yeah, I can't believe it. She's back.
Beverly
Guided.
Crusher.
Controls are not responding, sir.
Something evil is threatening the Enterprise.
Nitrogen oxide, toxic levels.
Lives are in danger.
Stay straight into the path of that stellar matter.
Disaster is dead ahead.
Prepare for impact.
On Star Trek, The Next Generation.
You know, I think it's very funny that the teaser for the episode doesn't spoil the return of Dr. Crusher, but the opening credits do.
Yeah, what a slap in the face. You can't even put her in the teaser featuring the return of Beverly Crusher. So this is kind of a first for the Star Trek reviews where we actually watch the teaser for the episode and discuss it on here. It says next time. Like, how long was the break between seasons 2 and 3?
I mean, it had to have been the summer, right? Like most TV shows, I would guess.
Yeah, and that teaser did not sell me on the episode at all. And then after watching the episode, I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what the teaser sold me.
Yeah, I feel like the teasers are all so great because they're all so uniform in like, this is the problem, someone might die, Star Trek.
Star Trek. And I'm wondering, because if seasons 1 and 2 were, I don't know if they were poorly received, like, at the time. And I'm like, where's the funding coming from? It's like, if two bad seasons of a TV show where people are like, okay, you better step this up, or I would love to know the ins and outs of that whole thing. Where did they go to the producers, writers, did they hire new people? Like, hey, listen, we got to make this show good, okay? We're 2 seasons in the hole here. Writer's strike is over. Figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And if it happens to be your first time here, we're watching all of Star Trek for the first time. And today we just watched Evolution, the first episode of Season 3 of TNG. And everyone has been telling us the whole time since starting TNG about 6 months ago that, once you get to Season 3, then it'll be really good. And that wasn't the case for this one. I didn't hate the episode, but it was directed by Winrich Colby, written by, looks like Gene Roddenberry, Michael Piller, and Michael Wagner had a lot of credits.
With IMDb, Gene Roddenberry is always...
he's on all of them.
Yeah, but yeah, when I first started doing research, I'm like, oh, wow, Gene Roddenberry... he's always there.
He's always there.
He's always there, yeah.
So it's probably just Michael Piller, mostly.
Yeah, the other 2 dudes, yeah. The Winrich Colby has directed a whole bunch of Star Trek I've seen. I think 3 episodes from Season 2 and more into this show and the other shows, the future shows to come. I think it was Michael Piller's first ever writing of Star Trek, I think, from a little bit of research. So good for him. I mean, you got to think, I think the writer's strike is over at this point, so maybe they're hiring new people finally, if they're actually paying people. Yeah, this episode is just carried by all the scenes that don't involve the plot at all.
Yeah.
And just so excited to see Guinan, so excited to see Beverly Crusher, and they have a scene together, which was amazing.
Wouldn't listen to anybody. Well, they all go through that. I'm a species of listeners.
It starts off after spoiling her return in the opening credits.
That's my biggest gripe. Yeah. They had so many opportunities. I'm just thinking of there's so many possible ideas to do with a great reveal where they could have teased it in the opening before the credits, where is the doctor on board? On board?
Put it in the hook. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I know at the time, I'm sure if you're a fan of Star Trek at the time it's airing, you hear the news, it's in the tablet, just like with shows today, this person cast, this person returning, whatever. But sometimes they try to keep stuff a surprise, especially now today. But obviously that probably wasn't the case then, and that's why it wasn't a big deal for her to be in the credits because everyone knew she was going to be back, which is fine. But it was still a good reaction, even though it was her name and not seeing her that we got out of it. I really like the opening shot of the episode. It pans in after showing the Enterprise on Wesley asleep.
Riker to Ensign Crusher.
And I love openings like that aren't on the nose, but it sets up the themes of the episode because it's all about, is Wesley taking on too much? Does he have too much on his plate? That's what causes the kind of argument between him and his mother later on. So at the time, you don't know that watching it the first time through, but looking back on it, it's like, oh, that was a nice opening establishing shot of Wesley, asleep on his desk or whatever, kind of setting the tone.
Yeah, and it's like reintroducing you to the ship too. It's like, oh, you've missed this, didn't you? Didn't you miss the ship? And then you think, oh, Wesley's sleeping, he's a kid, overstressed. But it leads to the problem of the episode too. It's like on a rewatch, it's like, oh yeah.
When I woke up, I saw the container had been left open.
That's right. The problem's right there in front of us. The nanobots are escaping, but it does a good job with this asshole trying to do his experiment that could only happen this year. Otherwise, it's going to be another 196 years. The stellar lunar star is going to blow up, give power, whatever. Not important.
The intense gravitational pull of the little neutron star sucks up the star material until it explodes.
Now, you think that lunar thing had anything to do with them evolving so fast, maybe?
I don't know, because they never returned to it, so I want to say that it was just a misdirection, would be my guess, which is actually pretty impressive, because in this show, at least so far, and at this time, you don't get a lot of that. Like, typically, if something's in the show, it means something, so maybe that could have something to do with it. I think they're called nanites.
Nanonites or something, yeah.
They show them on the screen for just a moment, and the idea of it's cool, kind of like a mite, like a bug, but in technology form, is an interesting idea. But yeah, you already brought him up. The biggest flaw of this episode to me, unfortunately, was Dr. Stubbs, played by Ken Jenkins, and not only did I not like the character, typical doofus from Starfleet and the Federation, but the actor, I didn't care for it all either.
Knowing my turn would come, call your shot.
Ken Jenkins, I looked up his stuff. He's a very well-versed, has a lot of credits, TV, movies, and stuff. He was actually in The Abyss that we watched recently. I'm like, oh, really? Oh, don't remember him at all from The Abyss. I wanted to like him. I liked his one speech talking about his allegory, his simile, whatever, to a baseball game. But yeah, everything after that, we should have known from the very beginning when the ship first gets rocked and everyone's like, oh shit, and he's just like rolling back and forth on the floor. It's like, all right, come on, man. And he fills that typical Starfleet role where it's like, oh, I come on the ship, so therefore I'm from Starfleet Direct Order, so I have, final say. It's like, I've seen this book too many times.
It is interesting that the plot of this episode isn't really split up into an A-B plot, although there are several, but the main story and the side story both involve Wesley, because in the main story you have these nanites getting loose, evolving, hence the title Evolution. And then on the side, you have Dr. Crusher, who's just coming back to the Enterprise. And really her main concern is that she's missed this time with her son growing up and doesn't feel like he's acting like a 17-year-old teenager. She thinks he's acting too much like an adult, like taking on too many responsibilities too early. And Wesley's a little bit of resentment coming out that she wasn't there. Now, does he actually feel that way, or is that the typical teenager, oh, you weren't there, throwing it back at him? But boy, did I miss Gates McFadden's visual acting.
And how can you know? You haven't even been here.
I'm here now, Wesley.
In that moment when he says that to her about her not being there, just the camera just stays on her face for like 10 seconds. No dialogue.
Uncomfortable.
And you see all the different emotions going through it. Thank God she's back.
God, she's so great.
I did find it an odd choice to start this episode with Dr. Crusher is just back and she's already doing her job. There's no introduction or know her arriving, and then Dr. Pulaski is not only gone but just never mentioned. I thought it would have been nice to have her, have the reveal, have it be like, oh, Dr. Pulaski had to go take another assignment, she retired, whatever the case is, and we have a new doctor on board, but make up some silly reason for why they don't know the name or know who it is, and then it's Dr. Crusher, and then that episode is following her getting back into the swing of things. I mean, how cool would it have been to see Wesley's reaction to his mom as a surprise showing up,
Yeah, if they did the same thing that they did with the season 1, the pilot, where it was kind of like because the pilot of TOS was like, we're just thrown right in the middle.
Yeah.
Like the crew's already been going, it's already a thing. But the pilot of TNG was kind of like this is our first go. So I don't know why they didn't do that. Where like maybe we're at a Starfleet headquarters, we're starting like a new trip. We just came off shore leave or whatever. Pulaski had to go annoy someone else. Oh, we have a new doctor. Oh, well, You're right. That could have been a great story. I don't know why they didn't. And I'm thinking from our perspective, we love Beverly Crusher so much, but what was everyone else's reception back in when it first came out? Did anyone else care as much as we did? I'd hope so. You know what I mean? Because sometimes I feel like, I don't know, did everyone love Beverly Crusher like we did? I don't know.
Yeah, all I have to go off of is obviously our audience, and it seems very split. Like, it seems like there are a lot of people that are, oh, I love how much you guys love Dr. Crusher. She's so great. And then there are people who are like, I don't get this at all. She's boring. So I think, like with most things, there's kind of a widespread opinion. As an actress, she's great, but not only that, the character is written so well, and it's so weird how the writers have obviously changed throughout this. Like, it's not the same exact people thus far, but yet how she is in season 1, it's like that character just picks right back up, and then they just couldn't figure out how to do it with Pulaski, And I get it; they're completely different characters. It's not just because of the female doctor, but like.
It's like, what do we do? Oh, she's Bones. Yeah, we'll do Bones again. It's like, nah. I'm sure there's supervising directors, supervising script writers that can easily pick up Beverly from back then and adapt her to now. But I also wonder if any people higher up were like kind of pissed that she left or was let go in season 2 and brought her back. And like, why did she come back? Why did they hire her? I want to know all those details. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that now watching this so far in the future, it's so difficult to look things up, without so I can't even. I have to rely on you guys to
Gates McFadden, Beverly Crusher, death. No, death.
Yeah.
That's the first response of anyone you look up. They could be well alive.
Yeah, regardless if they actually die in the show or not. Why were they killed off?
I kind of mentioned in a reaction. I always get excited a little bit when we jump to a new season because it feels like once a season starts to end, everything from the changes are pretty much locked in. You're not going to get any updates within the season. But like even from season 1 to season 2, it was like, oh, that's a little different. Oh, look at that. But from season 2 to season 3, completely different uniforms, like different material used. I was looking up an episode from season 2. I saw the uniforms, like just slight differences. Like I think the uniforms are made of something different. Like everything looked the same in terms of design. Like I was looking at the collars and the black
trim
top part. Yeah, and like that all looked the same between seasons, but like the material looks different. It looks a bit like warmer, not wool, but something a little more like, oh, that's probably a little more cozy.
Okay, yeah, because I've heard that the whole cast hated the original ones, and I'm guessing that's why they changed. So that makes sense that they would just change the material. But you can definitely tell there's definitely a different look to it. And there's also just all little touches, Worf's headpiece
keeps getting better, a little bigger.
Yeah, Geordi's visor is a little better. And
the chair with the lights on the front here, and there's like a little side chair with also a light up thing. I'm thinking of the hallways and the bridge. All that's pretty much the same. The bridge still has like the carpeted floors and everything.
As weak as the plot was for me in this one, that's what kind of got it by. Was it's a season premiere, so you're excited, you're looking at what's different, and then Dr. Crusher coming back. That saved this from being a lower tier episode to me. Well, actually, even with that being said, I'd probably still think this is a lower tier episode. It just, the plot and the guest character did not really interest me at all. The only stuff in the plot that interested me, like you said, was the character stuff between Dr. Crusher and Wesley and a few other characters that got in the mix, but that's it.
Yeah. I guess we should talk about Marina Sirtis, Troy. She has that scene with
Dr. Stubbs?
With Dr. Stubbs, yeah, and Dr. Stubbs was like, oh, I think earlier on he was like, yeah, don't try to break into me, like I know what you're trying to do, but later on she like completely dissects him.
Your self-portrait is so practiced. It's stretched so tight, the tension fills this room. I fear it will snap.
Yeah, that was the best part about him being so unlikable, is that everyone in the cast seemed to get a good moment on him. Troy had that moment, and then Data, after Dr. Stubbs does the just cartoonish, moronic act of just walking up and shooting in the engine room.
You are talking about machines with a screw loose.
Your own actions have provided evidence to the contrary.
Got him, So, yeah, he was kind of like the worst part of the episode, but I guess it kind of made the cast look better. But you know what? I think this is one of the hardest parts of being a guest on this show. If you're not someone as good as Susie Plex and, Kalar, like if you're not on that level, it's tough because this cast is all so good. And at this point, their chemistry with each other is also good that if you bring on someone who's not turning in a great performance because they just think, oh, I'm just this guest role on Star Trek, who cares? Like, it's going to show, I feel like.
That's true. Yeah, he probably had 6 more bookings that same day to go film. He's like, I got shit to do. I don't care about this. What is this, science fiction shit? But I also think, is there a curse to the guest star that's an antagonist? With Kalar, she's not the antagonist. She's like, there's conflict there, but she's not like a villain. And when you have to come in as a guest star villain, only so much you can do, almost.
Yeah, but, well, especially when you're not full villain like a Klingon, that we've seen, in episodes like Matter of Honor, where those were like villains, but they were good. As to where he doesn't get to be the full-on villain. He's still part of like the Federation, so he's not. It's not like they're actively fighting each other. So yeah, it's tough. I guess I can have some sympathy for that, but it didn't work for me.
Yeah.
This was a cool part of the episode when they let the nanites possess Data. Data volunteers to get possessed by them, and they talk through him. Brent Spiner gets to do something different again.
He gets to act.
Yeah, and he's really good. And I love the moment where Dr. Stubbs is like, "Oh, it was me. I'm sorry," and Brent Spiner, he's like, "We know who you are," like with a little inflection in his voice. I'm like, oh, that's good.
That scene was done so well because he comes on.
Why did you attack us?
We misinterpreted your actions as an attack on us.
The tension in that scene was so great because you think Data's just at any point going to go,
Yeah, because it's not Data, it's these machines. So, yeah, that was really good. And Winrich Colby had really good direction. There was a number of shots that we were both very impressed by throughout the episode. So that was definitely one plus, and I hope he continues to return. And then Dr. Stubbs gets to do his experiment, which is like, whatever, I don't care.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Dude, I've said it a million times, but right after the opening Captain's log,
Yeah.
out of my brain. Like,
Yeah.
what are they doing here again? Wesley has a good scene with Guinan in the bar before that, doesn't he?
Yeah, when he's setting up the traps, and Guinan's who he first admits to that this might be his fault with the nanites, and she does a really good job there. A lot of times with Guinan, it's almost like the stuff she doesn't say. Beckoning back to the scene in Measure of a Man with Picard, where he's like, "You're talking about slavery," and she's just like, "That might be a bit harsh." Like, she doesn't want to be the one to outright be like, exposition, which is great. She lets the other characters kind of come to that realization.
Yeah, and I think also there's a scene, that scene where I think Wesley says something, and I think Guinan just stares at him for a bit. Just,
You won't tell anybody, will you? I know. I will.
it's so great that her species is a bartender, and they're like called like listeners. I'm like, that's great. And she's a bartender. That's what bartenders. That's their entire job, is just listening to fucking bullshit all day.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And like through her, Wesley's able to like come to terms. Like, okay, I got to own up to this. I got to tell him what has happened, because he's stressed. Like a typical 17-year-old, he's stressing the F out. It's like, this is all my fault. Picard's gonna yell at me. Riker's gonna yell at me. But like, no, they don't yell at him. They go to that room. Wesley admits it. It's like, okay, and not even a reaction. It's like, okay, let's figure this out. It's like, that's how it's done.
And I like that Guinan's last episode was Q-Who, where she first reveals that, she's not just a human. And then in this episode, she's already just full on when she's talking to Dr. Crusher, and she's like, "Do you have any kids?" "Oh, I have a lot." And then, she's talking about the one kid that she had to, kind of teach. And she's like, "Well, it took several hundred years." It's like, I guess everyone's just cool now with whatever she is. She's clearly explained it to everyone. Not us yet. We're getting little droplets.
I love the little tidbits. I love that.
Cute couple.
This is also framed really well, where we see in the not even in focus, we see in the background, we see Wesley's gray suit and like a girl on his hip. It's like, was that? Beverly's like so excited, like, oh, that's great, he's hanging out with kids again.
Obviously looks at him with extraordinary affection.
What do you know about this girl?
About the girl. And it answers my question of when I was saying, are there other teens on the Enterprise? Anybody Wesley can hang out with? Clearly there is, when convenient. They're just not shown because they're not important to the show. But it's nice to know that, yeah, if he wants to, there are other teenagers he can go hang out with. It's not all just little kids and then adults, which is kind of what I thought, because the only kid Wesley's age we've seen was that one guy, Jake, in that one episode.
Oh God.
Episode had some good stuff. I'm really excited to jump into season 3. It seems to be some interesting improvements here, but it just wasn't that strong of an episode. And why can't Star Trek pick good starting episodes to their seasons? It's kind of weird.
I don't know. It's like they want to save the good ones for the middle. Like I'm thinking like Invincible, like a perfect season 1 opener. But I don't know. Maybe audiences were different back then. They were more bought in back then. I'm thinking of like TV today, and we make the joke about it all the time. Like when the new TV show has 5 seconds to impress me.
Yeah, our favorite joke. Yeah.
Let's hear what you got.
All right. Well, these
Wrap it up. Exit that way.
Yeah, it's funny because you think the TOS and you think of their 3 seasons. The Man Trap we loved. Amok Time, amazing opener. Even season 3, Spock's Brain, we had a lot of fun with, and that really kind of sets the tone for the season.
That was the start of it. I mean, I don't think we thought it was terrible. I haven't watched the episode.
I mean, we had a lot of fun with this. Spock's Brain?
Yeah.
Yeah. This show, is it because they're starting to deal with continuity that it's tougher? Because TOS, they could just pick any episode they want. Like, we have these 5 episodes written and produced. Which one you want to show first? It doesn't matter. But in this show, this does have to be first because of the storyline with Dr. Crusher and introducing her back in. But, I mean, you could have written a different episode around it. But I'm just saying, maybe because they have to be more intentional, they don't have all of the options to be like, well, what episode here is good? Let's show that first,
Yeah, I just felt like they went with the safe option. Like, this is the most basic of basic Star Trek storylines that we could do. And let's just sprinkle in Beverly Crusher and Guinan and this other stuff in it. Let's just get it out of the way. I think people are bought in at this point. I hope. I would love to know the story.
So every episode we talk about, our patrons get to let us know what they thought of the episode, and we don't read these, obviously, until right now after we've discussed it and said our opinions. Sometimes they 100% agree with us, sometimes they 100% disagree. It's very fun. If you want to take part in this, go check out the Patreon. There's plenty of benefits over there, uncut reactions to all the episodes, these full discussions, and these patron takes.
Oh, we didn't even mention the opening credits scene. Just a little bit extended. I thought it was fine.
Yeah, new intro.
Yeah, just showing the planets. I mean, they had to. They had to take out Pulaski, put Beverly back in there. So 2-piece uniforms. So I'm guessing the top and bottom are separated because seasons 1 and 2 they were like a jumpsuit.
Were they separated? I couldn't tell.
I don't know. I wasn't looking at their crotches.
Well, I was looking at their asses, but yeah, Riker's ass. Come on.
Oh, hell yeah.
Season 3, here we are. Finally, we get to the point where Wesley screws up a bit.
Shame about Dr. Pulaski and that airlock. Damn shame. Yeah, that's... Did either of you know prior to the first watch that our beloved Dr. Crusher was returning in Season 3 or at some point in the future, and Pulaski was off the show? Worf gets promoted to full lieutenant, 2 pips, and LaForge to lieutenant, commander, 2.5 pips. I didn't even notice that.
Oh, good for them. We never noticed the little things like that, so thank you guys for telling us, because we would never pick it up. Yeah! We are on to Season 3.
We're here. We're in the good part of the show.
Whoa, this is way different.
We finally have a budget.